Grand Rising Life Force, and welcome to Speak Pro Radio. My name is Stefan Rao, more commonly known as Tank, and this is the Life Force Network. With me, as always, is my partner in all ways, Miss Laura. How are you today?
I am very good, Mr. Al. How are you?
I'm great. You're all of a sudden got a big echo behind you. I'm not sure why that happened all of a sudden, but
Oh,
check your mic quick.
is it still echoing?
No, you're okay. So we're in a pretty exciting time. I'm excited to be live and talking to people about what is absolutely the biggest transition in the history of mankind. And I'm really happy to just be able to talk about this because I'm kind of like blown away by where we're at. I feel like this has been a long time in coming. And what are your thoughts? Where do you want to start today?
I don't know, Mr. Al. Well, first of all, we do apologize for being a little bit late. So I'm so sorry for the ones that were waiting. But I don't know. Where do you want to start? Because there's been a lot said.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there has been a
Was
lot
that
said.
your cue for me
Yeah,
to
that was my
help
cue.
you?
Yeah. Thanks for nothing there. Yeah. There's been a lot said in the different days that have happened since the last time. Yeah. So, okay.
Perhaps the team can help. No, she's been saying some really cool stuff. And, one of the things that I think we're all enjoying is the fact that she's bringing out the whiteboard and clearly explaining what's going on. So I think that's quite cool. Like, I think we're getting a little bit of history there.
Okay. And you're referring to she is in the ground commander that you can catch
Thank you,
on
Mr. Rao.
United Network.Earth, right? Um, So the ground commander is Kimberly Ann Gogan, and you can catch that on United Network.Earth and catch the GIA reports, and there's also news there as well. Now, that being said, the last 3 or 4 absolutely jam-packed, filled with information episodes of the GIA report, right? The GIA being the Global Intelligence Agency report, giving you accurate details about what's actually going on behind the scenes, right? Since however long these have been going on. But since the Trump election, it has been the election in the United States with Donald Trump now, or the character playing Donald Trump. Now we have this incredible surge of energy because the ground commander has said she will not support this presidency and she wasn't going to support the Kamala Harris presidency either. And it was a big, to do, right? So now behind the scenes is all of this drama of what's going on. So the first thing I want to talk about is this one kind of blows my mind is that down in Mar-a-Lago, which is like Trump's White House in Florida, right? That's like his vacation home that he stays at in Florida. And he always goes there. He's like a whole headquarters hotel there, right? So there was allegedly, and this was actually leaked out on the internet, there was a huge event that took place there, and there was ambulances that came in, and something took place in Mar-a-Lago, right? Now, this is a big deal because that's where the president-elect was staying, right? And the Secret Service, and this is actually accurate from the Secret Service directly, Secret Service was denied access to the president of the United States, right? Now, did you hear this, Laura?
Yes, I did. But okay, can you just explain it a little bit more? Like, why weren't they allowed?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
We're doing so good.
We're doing so good.
It's been a
We're nailing
long
this thing.
day.
We're really, this is what happens when you're not in a consistent practice, right? So, what happened? This is the part that's mind blowing to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because most people don't appreciate now. We have said this, and no one else really talks about this, but the original Donald Trump actually passed away back in January of 2022. He actually had, I believe it was colon cancer. Okay. That came directly from Don Jr., right? Which is his son. Now, this has been covered up because when these characters die in, you know, these big political characters, they never tell you when they actually died, right? Like George Bush Sr. died in 2014, but no one found out till 2018, right?
And why don't they?
Because they hold access codes or notoriety, or there's a power behind the brand of Donald Trump, right? There's a power behind that. It's an image. It represents, freedom and making America great again and all these
Well,
things. So they don't want that to die. But it's also a huge, publicity thing. It raises a lot of money. And they got, you know, him elected without him actually being alive. Right. So the ground commander who had the final say in that basically said, I will not support this presidency because, well, one, he's not alive. Right. So here's the question. What happens in Mar-a-Lago I think it was last Friday, right? Or last Thursday or something like that. What happened? Well, apparently there was a clone playing the part of Donald Trump, right? And this clone started to glitch. And I guess the clone, and Gogan goes into this deep explanation about how clones are attached to the original soul of the original individual, right? In this collective consciousness, right? And she goes into this, I mean, really an amazing explanation on what that actually means, right? So apparently the soul glitched out and died. So they tried to bring in the backup clone. And I guess these clones have been with Donald Trump's since he was born, right? And they
mhm,
tried in the backup clone, and that clone went berserk clone, right? Like it started attacking everybody there and couldn't deal and started hurting people. So they had to put that clone down. So now both of the clones that were there to play the role of the president are dead. And what they were going to do on 11/22, right? Because that's a big sacred day, and it was, you know, a big sacred day to the Order of the Black Sun, right? It also would have been, I guess, I'm not sure if this is exactly right. I guess it's the day that JFK got shot, right? So it would have been a huge spiritual, ritualistic day, right? And double numbers and numerology and whatever, right? Order of the Black
mhm.
Sun, Satanism, Luciferian, whatever. So they were going to announce basically that he passed away, make him a legend, carry on the name of the Trump, right? And that was the Trump card, right? They were going to keep on pushing that, but they ended up not doing that. So now I'm kind of fascinated to see what really happens because there's no one to. I guess there's also
Well,
three body doubles that play his role too. So, but I'm
and
excited
so
to see what.
are they still alive? Or
I think the body doubles are just people, like regular people
mhm.
playing the part, right, of Donald
And do
Trump.
they just have masks on, something like that, or those are the guys that did plastic surgery?
Those are the guys who did actual plastic surgery. It's like a whole new level of mask, right? Like they're committed to the part of Donald Trump.
Wow. Okay.
So, but I didn't hear about them. I just heard about the two clones,
Hmm.
right? So I don't know what's going to happen with that, right?
Mm.
So that was that, which is no small thing, right? Because we're in an age of where people are asking very logical questions, right? Like,
Hmm.
what happens now? Because in the United States, from November 4th to January 20th, I think, right, is when the formal inauguration happens. You basically have this, you have Biden sitting there, who's a shell of whatever Biden really is, but it's just this lame duck president, right? There's no power. But you have Trump who's supposed to come in, but now, I mean, Trump, there's not a real Trump to play the part, not even a real clone. So now you have these other characters, I guess. So, she actually said and just like that, you decided the fall of the United States. So I don't know what that means. What do you think it means to have this falling away of government? Because this is happening, even though it's happening here in the United States, this falling away is something that's happening worldwide. Governments are falling apart because this is a staple. What happens in the United States happens everywhere else,
Hmm.
right? Now, not the exact same things, but it influences everybody else.
Hmm.
So, what do you think the world looks like without government?
I think it gives us an opportunity, like us as humans, an opportunity to step up and actually, you know, come together and actually do something. Like I say, there's amazing people out there. Once you all come together and actually create something, or there's so many people out there that are already doing things that are really incredible. I think once we all come together, Do we really need them? And after everything that ground command is saying that she's able to do, obviously we know it's going to take some time. However, you know, did we even need these things in place in the first, put in place in the, my mouth is doing
In
amazing.
place in the first place. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Like you kind of, you think about these things. And so like when I hear these things are in place, it does excite me. What about you? What's your thoughts about all of this? Like, how do you see this all coming through? Like, do you have any concerns? Because, like,
Yeah, I've got a few. I've got a few. Um, so we tried to, we rallied assemblies all over the world, right, and tried to
mhm,
bring people together to kind of stand up and govern themselves, right? And I can't say that it was flawless by any means, but we were just trying to do the right thing, right? Now, think about it, governments take a long time to form, and
mhm.
in there's a lot of people doing a lot of good things, and there was a lot of people doing just silly nonsense, right? Making more of a game, in a power struggle than what it should have been. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of good work being done by a lot of good people all over the
Yes.
world, and that's unfortunate to me that kind of fell by the wayside. But I can understand why, because these people became the biggest targets of everything, right? So you had the NSA going into the New York Assembly, and you had the U.S. Marshals sneaking into assemblies. And you had down in Bolivia, the whole military took over the assembly there, right?
Oh, it's not even just the assembly. Like, with all due respect, even like, the house of when the assemblies were created itself, the house was crumbling. So, I can't be hypocritical right now and just say it's everyone else's fault. I'm sorry. When it comes to things like this, the house needs to be, built correctly, and it wasn't. And that's a shame. However, it is true,
Okay. The
Well,
house
it
was
is
built, but
true.
yeah,
No, it
yes, it's true.
was.
But you're trying to build something with nothing against literally the strongest force like that has existed on the earth. Like to build that up from nothing. It's unfortunate that they weren't like. I'm saying it's unfortunate on all levels. It's unfortunate they never got a chance to like work through the bumps. Like every organization, when you're going through something of a global establishment, right? We'll go through bumps and
I think,
bruises and like try to figure it
yeah,
out.
I agree with you in that case. Yes, there's bumps and bruises. However, I think a lot of us have learned a lot from this experience. You kind of realized who was really wanting to help people or who was just chasing the money. At this point, anyone that's, really, really doing something, I believe that they're actually like helping. I've been seeing amazing people without any funding actually do stuff. We've got Luggages of Love. What they're doing is incredible. And that's coming, we've got to put that on the Life Force Network, Telegram. And, but they're doing an incredible job, and they did it with their two hands. And
That's true.
there's a lot of people out there that are doing amazing things, but the other thing is too, where do you find them? Where do you come together and actually, do that? But I agree with you. The assemblies, it was a learning curve for everybody. And I think that, we can all look at that and go, what can we do better, with that experience? And transparency is yes.
No, so that's a great point you're making, though, right? Because this is a controversial issue, right? Because what I mean, because you're right. I don't know. Are we allowed to put out Luxuries of Love the information? Like,
Uh, I will have to check with
okay. But anyways, but the
I
two very
perhaps it's invisiblebridges.org.
right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, team.
Yeah, but anyways, the two young ladies who are heading up this charge, right? Like to and like we're gonna let them talk about. We'll bring them on to talk about it here soon.
Yeah.
But they rally together to help these kids that are coming in and out of foster care, right?
Hmm.
And that is commendable. And you're right to do it out of their own pocket. Now,
Yep.
here's my question though: is the only good work that can be done work that's done for free?
No, it's not. But but you've got people out there that are like, hey, I want to be part of this. It doesn't feel like work for them, so they're just like, let's get this done. How do we do it? Let's bring the resources together and create magic. And I think that's what we have to do now. We're at that place now, is coming together and going, okay, what can we do? We should be discussing these things. We should be having open discussion. And to be honest, we've got to, like, Ground Command said it. We're not enemies. In this process, I have seen people say that they're gurus and say that they're so connected to, someone high above, but yet the way they're acting, or the things that they're saying, I'm like, are you? Are you really? And I think this is a journey that's, and if you were, great, great. Hopefully now okay, that's probably not the behavior that you should be doing, and you change and you do better. That's the whole point of being human. You make mistakes, you grow, but you have to grow through it, you know. And so in this process, I look at it and go, I hope we're ready now. I think we've been seeing, like, I think even if you don't believe in ground command, I think we can all kind of come to a middle ground. We all believe in there's something higher above some, but we all want to live in a better place. And we want to protect our children. We want to live in, with freedom. The things that we like, I think we've all gone through so much, but not even just this lifetime. I think it's a time now that we
Good point.
are, it's all coming together, and it's a magical time right now. But continuing what you were saying, because there are some stuff that.
No, I think what you're saying is actually where we should go. I think those are great points, right? So everybody believes in something higher than themselves, right? Or everybody believes in something. Even like even an atheist. You can usually get an atheist even to say, like, well, there's probably something, right? There's probably
Mhm,
something more intelligent, bigger than myself, right?
mhm,
So that's and there's also a collective consciousness, right? A reality, something that we all need to feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves, don't we? I mean, isn't everyone's life bigger when they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves? Like, isn't
mhm,
our life better, right? I would argue that. I mean, I can argue that with anybody. Like, of course your life is better when you feel like your actions, your conduct, your demeanor, your life has purpose, right? I think everyone looks for purpose, right? And
mhm,
I think in large part, the more purpose driven you are, the happier you might be. But I think the more you've been targeted, previously, like a lot of people were really purpose driven. If they could disrupt the machine, if they could disrupt the order and the way things ran, which that to me is the most mind blowing thing that I see in listening to the ground commander is there were so many structures and intricate details that were designed to suppress humanity and to harvest our energy and our life force and to just constantly take from us and never really allow anyone to thrive. I mean, anyone outside of the order, right?
mhm,
Now, what does the world? And this is where I'm fascinated because you talk about this a lot about our personal responsibility in this, right? So we're hearing about these incredible things being done, at ground command. These incredible things are life changing, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, if we're not doing our work on ourselves, I don't even know if any of us can really appreciate these things unless we're really doing what the Bible describes as, examine thy own self, right? Like really examining ourselves to see that we're part of it. Am I saying that the right way? Does that make sense?
mhm. Yeah.
So talk about that. Talk about self kind of healing and what's our personal responsibility, do you think, in this whole tremendous, incredible transition, this global, not even global, universal, multiversal transition. Everyone's being released from a type of slavery, bondage, right? You know, stepping into their sovereignty. What does that mean?
I think that means different for
You
everyone, to
have
be
30
honest.
seconds to answer. Let's do it.
No, I think it's different for everyone. Grown men did say, and we've been constantly saying this. When it comes to healing, everyone heals differently. One of the things that I regret is listening to other people that I thought were gurus, and then I realized, are they really? And so therefore I started, you go through your own journeys, and I've used take what you need and leave the rest for everything in my life. You know, I will listen to something and I may not like the person. Like, I really cannot stand Tony Robbins. I've seen him. I don't like what he does. And, however, can I see that he has, really good things to say? Yeah, great. And can I implement that in my life? Great. And I look at that with everything in my life. And I think that's how we should be. One of the things I remember someone saying to me, because I'm, a Reiki master, and I remember someone saying to me, Reiki it's all symbols of, the devil, this and that. And I started getting really scared. I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that, you know. And then as I just went through it, when you're a healer, you have your own techniques, and you'll put a bit of this and a bit of that, all these things that you've learned. Like I've done that throughout my life, and I think there's just no quick fix to healing. It's a journey and it's very different for everyone. Some people will have it that they have moments that it feels great, and some might feel like this is torture. Get me out of here now, or it feels like a roller coaster. For me and you too, we sometimes it feels like a roller coaster, but you have to constantly remember which wolf you're feeding. And the other thing that I constantly always say is to myself, is this in my control? And if the answer is yes, I then go to the next stage, which is the 5 second rule. Do it then. Do it then at that moment, and don't go more than 5 seconds. And once you kind of do that, then you can, if it's not in your control, then there's nothing else you can do. So therefore, what you can do is figure out why you're feeling this way. It could be just like, you have to integrate it. It might be something you have to heal. Everything is done for us, not to us. These are the things I'm constantly saying to myself, because I choose to be a better version of myself every day. And when I'm not, or whenever I'm feeling like today's just not a good day, I, say to myself, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. And in our defense, there's been a lot of energy going around. So I think to answer that question is not that it's not really so easy to answer, I guess, because
You have
everyone's
about 9 things in that sentence, everything you just said, that you need to explain to everyone. Okay, let's start with, what is the 5 second rule?
Okay, so the 5 second rule for me is, we have a connection with our creator now. And, a little story how it happened was I was working and I had my phone there, and I always listened to a show, music, or something, whatever it was. At that time, I was listening to a show that I thought was quite funny. However, I heard a really loud voice say to me, how can I speak to you? How can you hear me with this playing? And I was like, oh. And I thought it was okay, but there must have been a frequency in there. So I turned it off and I changed the energy and I put, good frequencies on. And therefore I started, receiving what I needed at the time. And so one of the things is that sometimes we'll get an idea, we'll hear a voice, we'll hear something. So you might, think of how to create the best shoe, and it's different, and you just get that idea. Instead of sitting on it, if you get that idea, just do it. And like no more than 5 seconds. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you should be already doing that. And it should help you, to not procrastinate, I guess. But it's you're doing it. Because a lot of the times we'll hear these voices and we think it's amazing. And then after a couple of seconds, after a minute, we're thinking about it, we're contemplating it. Then we're now thinking why we can't. But if we just in that 5 seconds just started it, maybe we could create something amazing. So that's where I say the 5 second rule.
Okay, so I would explain it this way, right? For anyone, in the Bible, it talks about a still small voice. Right. Now, this applies to anything. You've had this happen before, right? Something that tells you like, did you turn off the iron? Right?
Mm-hmm.
like did you do this? Did you call your mom? Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
or something more profound, which is often is the case. Like, is this really benefiting you? Like, and what you do is you actually listen when that happens, when this experience happens, whatever it is, and you dwell on that passing thought for 5 seconds. And in those 5 seconds, you decide, right? For 5 seconds. Now it's 5 seconds, right? It's not a big deal. You think. But
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds in your mind is an eternity. If
Mm-hmm.
a passing thought was just going through, and all of a sudden you're like, what is the meaning of life? 5, 4, and you're just like, oh, I don't know. I need to go think about that, right? I need to go put some thought into that, put it on paper, right? Like why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book? Why don't
Yeah.
I write a book? And you start to do that, what happens is it leads to action, right?
Yes.
It leads from stagnation, like where you're stagnantly doing something, right? Like being entertained, right? We often will drown out our own thoughts, our own ideas, our own inspiration because we are being entertained. And
Yep.
one of the things I really have tried to emphasize to my kids, not successfully, but I have tried, right? Is don't be afraid to be alone with yourself, with your own thoughts, right?
Mm.
Don't be afraid to actually entertain your thoughts. Because what's happening is with entertainment, they're filling you full of their ideas, right? Like I remember seeing this. There was this great poster, and it was like the zombie apocalypse. And instead of like people walking around killing each other, right? They were like staring at their phones, right? And I thought, oh my gosh, this is real. This is like this is what's happening, right? We just walk around. If you ever saw the show iZombie, okay, iZombie is a great show to watch, by the way, and it's definitely like one of those shows that's telling you what they planned. So
Mm.
in iZombie, what happens is the zombies can stay just like humans for the most part, but they have to eat brains, right? And when they eat brains, what happens is they take on the energy, attributes, and memories of the person they're eating, right? So, in other words, they're consuming the thoughts and attributes of someone else. And in the process, they kind of lose themselves, right? And that's what happens to us every day. How many of us just get consumed watching someone else's thoughts, someone else's interpretation, someone else's whatever? And in that process, do we really create anything? Are we doing anything other than just being entertained by
Mhm.
something else, right? And then we kind of get away from that, what Laura is talking about with that 5 second rule. Like, but tuning into that and being willing to kind of walk away from it and just focus on whatever it is that's God is telling you. Let's say.
Exactly, but you've also got to remember with they've also been able to do with I think it's with AI technology they've been able to do things to interrupt as well. So the other things that you have to also be conscious of is what's your internal dialogue.
Mm,
Sometimes our internal dialogue we don't even realize what it is, and it's on replay, and that can amplify, and so therefore you know whatever is going on, it's now getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the fact that you can now hear it or you're repeating it and you don't even realize how many times do you do that. So you got to also remember you also got to remind yourself and be conscious of your internal dialogue as well, because there have been times that something will come up and I'll always think, I'm like, wait, is this something I'm feeling? Is this something that's going on? And I dig into it and I try to figure out what do I need right now? And I get the resources that I need, and I start to self-reflect, which is what we should be doing. And sometimes I'm like, oh, that's it, I'm good. And other times it's like there is something here and I need to fix this, or I need to integrate it or grow through it, whatever it is, heal it. Then there was sometimes there was nothing there but a little bit, and I knew, oh, you're interfering. And so, or it could be something that feed the right wolf. So I feel like, which one are you feeding as well? Because sometimes, you could be saying things that you don't even realize.
So feed the right wolf. Explain that.
Why don't you? Because it seems like you know how to do it better. Go.
No, not like look, you're
Go.
mentioning it. See, a lot of times like people haven't heard that necessarily, and we kind of assume they do.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you to take the step to just explain that. So the example, it's an allegory, right? It's a joke or a question or a riddle, and it's basically like, you have one wolf that is I don't know, happy and inspired, consumed, not consumed, content. You have one that's filled, it's angry and sad and bitter. Which wolf wins, right? And the answer is the wolf you feed,
That's right.
right? Now, I butchered that, by the way, but so
It's
so I
okay.
might not be the best one to explain it, but I wanted you to explain it because you use that example. I think it's a great example, right? What do you feed now? I think this is also really important. Self talk. I like that term,
Hmm.
right? The inner dialogue you mentioned.
Hmm.
Now, this is really important, right? Like, this is like, because there's certain things we say to ourselves that we would never allow someone to say to our mom or someone we loved, right? Like, how dare you talk to this person that way, right? I said this to Laura. I'm like, one time she said something bad about herself. I'm like, don't talk about my wife that way. Now she was talking about herself, right? I'm like, don't talk about yourself that way.
And
It's
it's a great,
insulting.
but I love the way when you said that, I kind of was like, oh, he's talking about me to me. How does that work? Why did that hit me so hard? When you said it, I was like, that's actually a really good thing to say because it made me go, holy moly, how am I talking to myself? And that's what I'm saying about the internal dialogue. Once you kind of catch yourself, you're like, whoa, stop. This is not okay. Like you just said, we won't allow that to be said to the people we love, but
Yeah.
yet we're saying it to ourselves, and that's unacceptable. You know,
Well,
and
and this is a balance too, right? Because like I think about this now, and actually I don't know. This part
mm,
I get a little off with, right? I get a little off with
okay,
because if you look at like great athletes, for example, right? Great athletes, kind of the easiest place to see this.
mm,
You take Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali came out to the world all the time and said, "I am the greatest. I'm the greatest." Right? I mean, he had lost fights, but he was the great, universally accepted as the greatest boxer of all time, Muhammad Ali. Right?
mm.
But you have other boxers that were never defeated, right? That were like faced great opponents, right? But what made Muhammad Ali great is he faced the best opponents and he beat them, right? And he did it in such a flamboyant, incredible way. And he was very vocal. But most people would say, "Oh, you're so cocky, like you're so arrogant," right? So I think there's a value, especially if it's internal, where you're just literally singing your own praises, so to speak, and knowing you're capable, knowing you're powerful, knowing you're strong and intelligent and attractive, and whatever it is that you need to feel to be the best version of yourself, right? And
So,
yeah, go ahead.
well, see, when you say that, I'm like, I used to always feel like this is when I would hear someone say this. Like, if I heard a person turn around and say, I'm so sexy, this and that, and I'm like, why are you saying it so much to me? Are you trying to are you
Yeah,
trying to convince me? Because what you're convincing me is that you have like you really don't think that, you're just trying to convince yourself. And so sometimes it's okay, to say things to yourself, you know, and if it comes out, that's okay, as long as it's done from a good place. But there are people that, because it's a very fine line, in my opinion, there is a very fine line. um, my thing is, I'm more of a do it to yourself, give that love to yourself. Like, you're the only one that can change your reality. And if you're going to be spitting it out to everyone else, do you really feel that way? You
yeah.
know, and that's where I'm kind of like, and if you are, great, you're that confident, good. That's what makes you happy. You do you, boo. That's how I see it as.
So
But
so this is my balance with this, right? This is my thought
mhm,
on this. I do think it's important to have that part of you that is like pure swagger, like within yourself, right? Just being within yourself and knowing, like, I know I got this,
yeah,
right? there's something to be said about how that translates into everything we do. To
Yeah,
walk and know with a certain confidence and
but you
true
don't have
confidence.
to. But you don't have to say it. It's just
Ah,
there.
ah, ah, ah. I'm explaining. So I'm saying within yourself, right? That's what you're saying. Like if I feel that way within myself and I say it that way, that's okay, right?
Yeah, like
That's
because
what's
your whole demeanor, your attitude, energy, you know, it will. You don't have to say a word. It just shows. It shines. And I
okay.
think that's what they've tried to take away from us is, you know,
Great
they've
point. Yeah.
you know that's how that's what I this is my opinion. I just feel like if that's how you feel, you don't have to say a word. You know, I always say this to people: if you turn around and say, if it affects you, and so if someone says you're ugly and it affects you, then you need to go and do some healing of it. But if someone says you're ugly and then you're just like, okay, cool, thanks, and it doesn't, then
Oh my gosh, that's a whole different category of things. So I want to talk about that because that's a great point because perception in some cases becomes reality, right?
hmm,
So here's the term that is often used in negative context, right? Is self consciousness. Like if you're self conscious, right? It
hmm,
usually means like I'm embarrassed or I'm uncomfortable about something about myself, right?
hmm,
But I don't agree. I think the term self consciousness is really valuable, right? If I said self aware, which is the same as saying self consciousness, right? If you're
hmm,
self conscious and you realize, okay, like I know who I am, right? I'm self conscious, right? I'm not, doesn't mean I'm uncomfortable. So I feel like people associate the term self consciousness with being uncomfortable about something. But if you're self conscious and very confident in who you are, that's a great thing. So I know for example, like I'm a big guy. I'm kind of broad, right? So I know that I have to consider when I walk up to a new person to talk to them because if I come the wrong way, I can scare them, right? I'm self-conscious. Like I know, like okay, I'm this big, and sometimes people get scared of a big guy coming up on them. If I ran up and just said, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" Like they're gonna be like, "What, dude? Chill out," So I have to be conscious of that. Do you agree with that, or do you think I'm wrong?
I agree, but then that other thing that I come into, if you're self conscious, is it in your control? Can you change that? And if the answer is yes, then start doing little changes, and then before you know it,
Wait,
you've
do you mean
completely
self-conscious by being embarrassed? Is that what you mean?
anything,
No, because
anything.
I just got through saying self-consciousness is good. Being self-conscious is good. What you
Yeah.
said, you used it the way that everybody else uses it,
Well,
right?
no, but
Oh,
this
if
is
you're
what. But
self-conscious, meaning you're like uncomfortable, right? Is that what you meant?
wait, yeah, but this
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
I'm trying to say. Like, it can be good because now you've figured it out. Okay, I don't like this, or I need to be aware of this. You know, like you're saying, you're aware that because your energy is so strong that it can blast people sometimes, and you don't mean to. So that's where you're more conscious about that. However, I would say to you, don't shy away from being who you are either. As a one thing is that they've taught
Yeah.
us to kind of dim our light, shine, be you, but be your authentic you, not what they've told you to be or whatever. Be your authentic self. And the days that you're not, that's okay too. It's just you've got another moment to change it. So, yeah,
So let's talk about that. So you're right. I agree. I agree with both of those statements, right? Like, hey, like be yourself, be the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like. Express yourself. You are an expression, a manifestation of God, right? You're an extension of his beauty, his love, his light.
hmm,
Be that, right? Be
yeah,
that exceptional person. Now, but what you just said is right though. Like at the same time, not everyone's going to receive that,
that's
right?
okay.
So this is what I mean. Like that's why self-consciousness,
Is
realizing
it
how you're perceived, and also realizing who you are.
the
Is
difference is if, for example, you didn't care what anyone thought. Let's just say you didn't care you can take it how you are and you're living your best life and you're happy, great. If you're now complaining about it, you're not feeling good about it, then what's the problem? You're the
Oh,
contributing factor here. No matter where you go, you are the contributing factor. So therefore, do you like it? Do you really like it? You've got to ask yourself the hard truths, but the easy truths. Is it working for me? Sometimes jeans that, hey, listen, you want to wear them, they look great, but they just don't suit you, girl. And that's okay because there are other jeans that will. And that's okay to say, because we're all different. And it's to embrace who we really are and loving ourselves for how we are too. I'm a big believer in, if you don't look after yourself and, this is
yeah.
probably not.
See, like the tripping right now is because this is a controversial freaking subject. Okay,
It
because here's why. Here's why. There's loving yourself in the
There is.
kind of generic, like love, love, love. Everything's love. Don't get mad about anything. Everything's wonderful. Oh, you just did. Oh, that's okay. Everything's great. I love you. Bullshit. Sorry.
Wait. I do that I will do that to myself constantly to everything's okay. Cool.
Wait. But sometimes you're not doing the right thing. Period. You're just not like, there is something to be said about loving yourself. Absolutely love yourself. But what does that look like? And I'll give an example, right? You take a kid. Now, I know you've seen this kid. You've seen this kid, probably some millennial brat, right? At the store. And this kid is tearing up at the store, acting like a damn fool, asking for something he shouldn't have, screaming like an insane person. And the parent is standing there going, wait, honey, because they're trying to gentle love him up, right? Wait, honey, you know what? We'll get that later. Oh, this will be better later. Don't worry. What? And they're doing something, and you're going to yourself, shut that crazy kid up, go take him outside and whoop his ass. And you know it. You know it. And you're thinking to yourself, even though you might not even, like, my parents never laid a hand on me. I've never laid a hand on my kids, right? So I'm not like someone for this. But at the same time, when I see that kid, I think that kid needs a spanking, right? Like that kid needs something so they understand
Discipline. He
they
needs
need
to
some
be
kind of
disciplined.
discipline, right? And there has to be something there, right? So I use this example because
My
I know anybody
life.
watching this now or in the future is going like, oh my goodness, I just saw this. You know you've seen that exact thing happen, right?
Look, you gotta be.
Let's be honest, right? Let's be honest.
It's a touchy one because sometimes you just don't know the circumstances. You just don't know. Sometimes a child could have some illness as well, and then that's really hard to, or has like a chemical imbalance or whatever. So it's a struggle for me.
Yes. Okay.
No,
This is the excuse people use for everything.
that,
Right? There's a
no.
a chemical imbalance could be because you have too much sugar.
Okay,
Chemical
yes,
imbalances
that's
are
true.
caused by all types of things. Chemical
Yes,
imbalances
that's
are
true.
permanent and they can be changed. And usually it has to do with diet and exercise. And that is a 100% fact. Most
This
chemical imbalances can be corrected with diet and exercise. That is true.
That is true. That is true. But when you're dealing with children, sometimes, you know what? They don't want to have that because they cannot have that because they have something that's telling them the feel of it doesn't taste like it doesn't feel right,
Okay,
or they're
but that's not the
hypersensitive to
example I'm talking.
certain
Like,
things.
you see somebody
You're
dealing with
talking
with a
about
kid
a,
and they're struggling with something. Nobody gets mad at that. What I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. You know what
you're
I'm talking
talking
about.
about a spoiled
You
brat,
see
but you
that
know
little
what?
kid who's
But it's
being a
the
jerk
parents.
or
It's a touchy subject for me because I feel like it's parenting. I do believe that children do need to be disciplined, and because it actually helps them. What you're doing, you're not raising these. What you're doing is you're raising adults.
you're
I
raising at, that is your job as a parent
That's
to
right.
get that
But
child to be able to conduct themselves in the world.
But
That's your
Mr.
job.
Rao, yes, but Mr. Rao, we've been living in a very toxic world. Look at what's going on. Look, I'm telling you, people that were in assemblies that knew what was going on and they knew all these things, so on and so on, Miss Gurus and Mr. Gurus were still doing poor behavior. They were having poor behavior. So therefore, some people look that are not aware of energy healing, that aren't aware that the government is trying to do all these things, you know, that there are alternative options for them. you know it's a touchy subject. I agree with you. I do agree with you. However, I'm just saying that we just, they have been coming at a lot of people for a very, very long time. So perhaps now, when all of these things go, I like to be a gentle parent with a touch of South American in me. So
Which means getting hit with a flip flop.
that's not true.
Not just that. I could be a lot of things. But that's one of them.
I just, I look at this and I think to myself, how will I be as a parent? And now that I am, a step parent, I'm constantly always thinking to myself, how can I be better for, the kids around us? I'm their role model now. And so therefore I need to, they're going to mirror me. So I need to make sure I take care of my house first, which is me. Then I'll take care of the house. And so,
could you please get your dog to be quiet? First of all, let's try.
I know.
That's a dog. Now here's the difference, right? Here's the difference. This is like the running joke, because our dog will talk like it's a human, and that way
Yes.
we'll be explain everything like he's a human. That's why he thinks he's a human, right?
Yes.
So listen, you got to use your indoor voice. You got to do this. She'll give all long explanation, and when I come in, I'm like, stop. No, right? One word answers, and he's usually relatively responsive, right? But it's funny. You see how it's two different ways of being, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what the yin and
I
yang in
appreciate both
us.
sides of it. I appreciate both sides. I
Yeah.
appreciate where you are with them. I'm just saying, you can kind of get a feel for, like, at some point, it's they got to know, shut it down. We're in a store right now, right?
I agree. I agree. However, I'm so grateful that I have that I can do that with you. So therefore, when I can be the nurturing side of it, because I know you're going to be, a little bit more stern in other things where I probably won't be. That's where the blessing is, that you allow me to be feminine role model here in this house. And I think that's really important too. That there's everyone plays their roles too. If you saw me going, oh, you'll be like, is that really? I like next to that person. She sounds like a man.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't want that. I do think it's very important for men to give women the opportunity to be women, and vice versa. I think that's really
Yes.
important. Yeah.
So, Mr. Rao, I have a question for you. So I've been thinking, it came to my head, and I was like, okay, 12 universal laws. Do you know the 12 universal laws?
The natural law. Do, do,
Yeah.
do you have these written down to talk about them? Because I'm more than willing to talk about each one of them if you want to talk
Sure.
about.
Give me 2 seconds.
No. You brought up the 12 universal laws. Now, if you wanted me to go through each one of them,
No.
we could talk.
It's
I understand all of them. I think this is what governs the world, and I think
yes.
we can definitely
That's
talk about this because I think this is
that's
really important. Luckily, it just popped up on my screen.
oh.
So
So oh, that was weird. It didn't actually do that. So this is the thing. What I was going to ask you is in regards to this. What happens now that ground command has changed things? Do these universal laws still stay in place? Because some of them, when I was going through, it was talking about karma, and it was talking about things like that. So what's your thoughts?
okay, so let's list these off first, right? So the law of divine oneness, right? Meaning everything is one with the ultimate source of God, the creator. and that is
Mhm.
light and dark, good and bad, love and hate. All things are part of the ultimate divine source of God or
Mhm.
source. Law of vibration, meaning that whatever vibration you're vibrating at, you will attract. And the world brings back to you not what you want, but what you are, right? So that is the vibration that you tune in a radio station, right? The law of action meaning it does require action, and to every action there is a reaction. There is a something that takes place, right? You have to take action. Your action is the language that speaks and reflects the way you feel about things, right? The law of correspondence meaning everything you do has a score, like it affects everything else, right? So you don't necessarily, this is like the 100 monkeys, right? They observed this on an island where, like, the monkeys would go out and they'd do something, like they'd scoop the water up a certain way, and they'd never seen that behavior. And then at another island that had never had any interaction with these monkeys, they were doing the same thing, because as 100 monkeys did this, like another place, they also did this, right? So there's a corresponding reaction in the universal because of the energy and the vibration. I don't know if I'm explaining that exactly right. Law of cause and effect, meaning everything you do has an equal and opposite reaction, or has that reaction, right? So if you eat right and exercise, chances are your body will reflect it, right?
Mhm.
That's a natural cause and effect. Law of compensation, I don't, I'm never the best at this one, but law of compensation meaning that, actually, can you explain this one, Laura?
So the law of compensation, the way I kind of see it as, is that it's a give and take. Like, you be compensated for your work from the universe. Like, I'm not saying that right. I,
Yeah, that you should be,
like, it's being
largely, you should
compensated.
be, you should be compensated for what you do,
Yeah.
right? Like, so, I mean, one way or another, you know, like you could do something to be compensated with hate, right? Like you could do something to be compensated with love. Like there's all types of things.
Yeah.
Law of attraction, you attract what you are, right? Which
Hmm.
is, I always thought law of attraction was actually a subcategory of law of vibration. So, and then law of transmutation of energy. So I love the principle of transmutation, right? The idea of transmutating one thing into something else, right?
Hmm.
Taking someone's hate and turning it into love, or your body does this, is the best way I understand it. And the way it was explained to me was by Tom Scalar. He's a scalar energy, and he was explaining like how the energy and scalar energy will take, like, if you ever saw like the diagram for, like, anything, it's like a hexagon with a line, right? And it's like, imagine just moving the line, and like suddenly you take oxygen and you turn it into hydrogen. Right? It's like, that's the transmutation. You're transmuting one thing into something else,
Hmm.
and that happens all the time. Energy is constant. It never ceases to exist. It just changes shape and form, is the idea.
Hmm.
Law of relativity. I don't know about this one. I gotta look that one up. Law of relativity. I
Yeah.
don't
And
think
then
it's
the law, yeah, just the reason why I was asking you this was because I was thinking about this and I was going through it and I was like, okay, does this mean these things change as well? Isn't this something that we should live by, the universal laws? You know, and that's, I don't know, what's your thoughts about that? Because one of the things that I've realized in this journey, the hardest thing is trusting the process. And I feel like we're there now, is trusting the process, knowing that we've planted the seed and allow it to just, it's going to, what's the word I'm looking for? When you plant a seed, Mr. Al, what
things grow. Things grow. Is that what you're trying to say? Sorry, I was reading up on the law of relativity because I'm like,
I know, it's like, not the
yeah.
time of life.
I don't. I think these you were talking about this.
Blossom, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Leela. And I think that's what we're at now. And just allowing, like, because that's the reason why I brought that up wasn't just to explain it. It was like, I feel like we need to kind of come up with, not come up, is there something out there that we have to follow? Like these are the universal laws. So I thought maybe these are. And what's your thoughts about it now that things have changed with the system?
I gotta be honest. I really consider these things. I'm not a passive observer of these things that are being said. I consider them deeply. I ruminate on them constantly. I'm always looking to understand them better, personally. Um, I feel I'm pretty in touch with directly what's happening. These are the biggest changes in the universe, maybe in the history of all humanity. Right now, there's certain things like we would recognize. So I don't know if the law of relativity actually, like you have E equals mc squared, kind of like that was like the thing before, right? That's how energy was, transmuted. Now it's something totally different. It's a totally different formula, right? It's like T over V equals. It's like, and I'm not even sure. Like time over velocity equals mass. Like the ground commanders talked about this several times. I've written it down. I've tried to understand what that looks like. And this is how matter is created, right? This is how we bring something down from source into this reality. And I don't know, even the law of polarity, or the law of polarity is one of the main natural laws. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have light and dark, but I think that only exists during a dark age.
See, like these are the things that I was like thinking. I'm like, what does that mean? You know?
I don't know. I mean, because where I've always seen it, right, as an artist, right, this is the law of this idea. It's always made sense to me, right? Because you can
Mm-hmm.
take a piece of paper and draw on it a white piece of paper with a piece of charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
And the darker the value you put in there with charcoal is going to push that part back. And it'll bring forward the lighter parts, right? It'll make the lighter parts stand out. So it always made sense to me like you'd have to have dark and light, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
you could see shape and form. You could see the reality on the page. So that's always made sense to me, right? I don't know if it's light on light on light on light, and all that's going to exist is good and good and good and good. I don't
Well,
know. I don't know
I
exactly what
think
that
it's a,
looks like.
wouldn't it be a process though? Like like I feel like there's a process. Like just like every single person has to go through their own journeys, wouldn't other people do the same thing too? You know? Like
I mean, there's a transition for real. I mean, for sure. Like, there's definitely a transition that I think will take many, many years. Many years. I can't even conceive of how long this will take to kind of transition the entire planet over to a light, completely light age where people embrace and are teaching, right? Like you can kind of tell what's happening by what we're teaching, like the values we're teaching, right? And we're in this process where we are walking into a new age in a reality that none of us have ever experienced. And not just here on Earth, but anywhere in the multiverse, anywhere where what we've always dreamt could be possible is. I mean, the ground commander just talked about this exact thing. He said, we're actually going into an age where dreams are our reality. Like and not in a, like, where you're, skateboarding on the moon and all of a sudden you're diving in a pool kind of thing. But your dreams, like what you've always believed you can make possible, what your wildest dreams are here. You can now create this reality. That's where
yeah.
so that is the question of what does that look like? Because the latest one was actually like this last whiteboard excursion on United Network on Earth is incredible. What is talked about is like, okay, all of these AIs existed, all these bloodline AIs existed through the Omega system, like Lucifer, like ISIS, like Baal, and like they were all different AIs. They were bloodlines that were created in the dragon families and the eagles, and the black eagles, and all these different things. And they went back to these overlays that basically convinced them that they would have a collective consciousness and awareness of Lucifer. So when we talk about like, oh, it's the devil, yes, the devil made you do it. Like, a lot of these characters, they were connected back directly to the bloodline of Lucifer. I mean, they have a shared consciousness with Lucifer, right? Which is deeper in a sense than like, a father son or, parent child kind of bond. Not just a bloodline, but a coexistence with this evil entity. And now these evil entities have been banished, killed, destroyed, returned to source. So what happens to the evil empire of the Cabal, right? They're falling apart.
As
Now,
we should.
we should see that. We should see this collapse visibly. In my opinion, I don't see how we keep this a secret. This will show itself visibly to the world. It will show itself, and this is when now is the time that people need to step up and say, "What does that mean for me?" Because I'm not collapsing. I feel great. I'm directly connected to God in a way I never have been. I see more clearly everything.
Well, that's when you, as the person, as a sovereign being, will follow direction from your creator, and they will take you step by step, or you will be guided step by step on what needs to be done. You'll get the vision, you'll get the idea, you'll get whatever it is. Something might arise that you need to heal before. We were talking about the current. If one door opens, like I feel like, yeah, great, you can open the door, but you've got two doors open, and now it's current. And the current now, it's just chaos. So close one door, and then then you can open the other one. I've been looking at this and seeing it happen, and go, oh, okay, I have that ability to feel this. See what's going here, and I know what I have to do here. However, your creator is saying, no, 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 no. If you go there, it's actually going to do more harm for you. So therefore, fix this first. So I'm now going to amplify it so you can actually fix it, heal it, integrate it, whatever needs to be done, because everyone is different. And then there will be no current. And then because there's a flow now. And she did, Ground Command did say this, that, they could be putting all these things, dismantling all these AIs and all these systems and so on and so on. But we have to remember our system as well. We are a system. So therefore, you as a sovereign being have to heal, fix, integrate, do whatever with your system. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by trusting yourself and connecting with your creator, the universe, Pachamama, whatever you want to call it, and they will, she, he will guide you, and I think that's where we are at, is we need to trust ourselves. And yeah, you don't agree with that?
No, I'm with you. I have a lot of questions, but I'm with what you're saying. I think what you're saying is very true.
Yeah, so I feel like that's where we are now, that we now need to look at our own selves. Right now is the time to get yourself ready. We're in I heard really clearly, like, you were there. We're on the path. And it feels like a roller coaster right now. We know there's an end. There are going to be times you're going to be scared, you're going to feel sick, you're going to have fun, you're going to be like, there's an end. And then when you get there, you're going to get off and be like, that's amazing. This is, great. This is, what do I do now? And I think now it's like,
now we're going on the log flume. Let's go.
but this is where one of the things that I loved about the Life Force movement was the fact that people were actually putting their projects, their dreams, their creations on paper. Because once you put something on paper, then now you're now sending to the universe, this is what I want. Not what I want, this is it. And then, and the hardest thing is that once you do that, then you've got to let go of the outcome, because it can come in different shapes and forms. And you have to just let go of the control. That's one thing I've learned with it's like, let go of control. So then, my creator went, I'm going to take all the control from you and see how you feel about that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. And I think it's a journey for everyone. And some people, it might not be control. Sometimes it might be something about health. It could be it could be anxiety. It could be something with your children. It could be your work life. It just does not matter. If it's coming up, there's something that you have to see. And so when looking at that, like I just think like this is where it's really exciting that, when I've heard many people say this, it's the journey. And so now I'm looking at it going, yeah, it is the journey. Because you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't go through it. And you learned so much. It might hurt, but you learned. Who better yet than you, Mr. Al? Like with
But Bashar talks about this, right? Like I do. I actually have loved the things Bashar said, and he talks about how it doesn't matter what happens; it's how you respond to it, right?
Mhm.
I love that idea. I love that idea, right? What do you do with what you're given?
Mhm.
What do you do with what you're given, right? And we have a lot of experience with that, right? Like I've had a lot of experiences where, you know, it would seem like I haven't been given what I put in. I didn't get back necessarily, right? Like, or at least that was my perception. And what do you do from there? Those are really the moments that define who you are and who you will become.
Yeah, but it actually at that point you had no other option but to turn. Like I look at this and I thank your creator for doing this because I'm like you were able to then learn who you are. I got to learn who you were, but not only that, I also think it had to happen because I love you, I do. But one of the things was that you didn't trust yourself. I'm sorry to bring it out like this, but you didn't. You didn't trust yourself, and you learned to trust yourself. You learned
Oh,
to.
see, this is what I want to talk about. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So Laura is talking about trusting yourself. Just trust yourself, right? Well, some people don't know what the hell they're doing. So how do they trust themselves?
That's their journey.
That's
That's
a
the journey
generic.
they chose.
That's their journey.
That's their journey. You might see your loved one. The whole thing was happening in 2019, 2020, we got a strike, so I'm being very cautious. um, there were people that were going through that and you didn't agree with it. But again, you had to sit back and say, you know what, it's their journey. If something happens, then it is.
That's not what I said, for the record. I don't think you
What?
go through it. I wasn't like that.
What do you mean?
Maybe we're
Be
talking about.
cautious. Oh, yeah,
You talked about something that happened in 2019. I have one thing in mind. I was
yes,
not going back saying, go through your journey.
everyone needs to go through their own journey. So the best way to explain it that is when in 2019, when the whole thing happened about the pandemic, I'm talking about the pandemic, and seeing your loved ones go through, there was very strong opinions on both sides, let's just say. And whatever side you were on, it hurt to see your loved ones go through it.
Mm.
And you had to allow that process. It's their journey. And as sucky as it is that way. So if someone, like you just said, trust yourself, well, guess what? That's what they're trusting. And maybe that's the journey they have to go through because you know what? In the future, they have to talk about something specifically that happened on their journey that can help others. Because how can anyone respect them if they didn't walk in those shoes? I remember when I first came here, things would happen to myself. I would hear myself say to me, well, these things need to happen because, one day, how are you going to help someone else that's going through that if you haven't ever experienced it? There was terms and conditions I didn't know. And
The T's and
I
C's. The
always
T's
say
and
the T's and
C's. They
C's.
weren't entirely clear to me. They weren't entirely clear.
Yes, I
I should have
believe
read those.
that.
I should have read those. So I just say,
But like it's a journey for everyone. And sometimes you got to
so you
go
think we
through
should
it.
just kind of respect everyone going through their process and their journey in general?
Well, look at it this way. If other people, this is me, what I do. Whenever something happens, like I'm looking at the person, it could be something happy or sad or whatever it is. I will look at that person and go, okay, this is happening for me, not to me. And there's a reason for this. And you know what? This is my reality. So, therefore, why is this coming in my reality? This person's just a version of me in another form. It's my mirror. So, therefore, I can't change this. Sorry, they can't change this. I'm the only one that can. It's my reality. And I want to shape it. How do I want to shape it? And then you go through that. That helps me. Like it's constant, like, because I'm like, if this was not something that affected me, it wouldn't be my reality. But if it is, there's a reason why. Is it something to learn? Is it something to integrate? Something to forgive? And do I do this to one person? Do I?
So
Yeah,
this is a perfect example of how you deal with healing. It's not an absolute recipe for everyone else.
exactly.
Right.
And,
So this
and
is what you do, which I think is very effective, right? I think it's very effective. I apply a lot of these same principles every day. And we do a lot of different kinds of energetic healing on a very regular basis. But what I realize is like at the end of the day, it's like, you know, most of my day I'm still working by myself, right? And
yeah,
I can be riding in a car for an hour and do a lot of healing in that hour, right? By myself, right? And we have to kind of do what works for us. Everyone,
yeah,
this is something Ground Command talked about, you talk about a lot, is do what works for you,
yeah,
right? And find out but I always feel like if you ask, the universe has to answer, right? Has
yes.
to.
Hmm.
And
And more now than ever.
ever.
And it's just going to get stronger and stronger. But we have to learn how to use these abilities, because what the world is supposed to be like, things would just happen straight away. But you can't give a knife to a baby. You have to teach
Mm.
them. You have to. There comes a time that okay, you're going to give them a baby knife, and you're going to guide them. Why wouldn't the universe do that with
For the
us?
record, anyone out there, there's no such thing as a baby knife. There's no such thing. But go ahead.
There is a baby knife. There is. It's a plastic
Baby
knife.
knife.
It's a plastic knife.
Baby. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's a plastic knife, and you give it to children to like teach them, so it can't hurt them.
Got it.
So
Got it.
those things. Well, what I'm trying to say is that our creator is like, hey, this is how I see it. It's like, hey, we're in this together now. And so I'm going to give it to you when you need it. I'm going to give your resources, but you've got to ask for it too. You can't just be like, you can't say I want to find the love of my life and then sit at home all day. You know,
This is the law of action. The law of action put in place.
there you go. There's a process. That's where the 5 second thing comes in. That I go, okay, 5 seconds because it can, and trust me, I do it a lot of times. That I'm like, I can't because of this. And then and then they'll keep saying it, and I'm like, I can't because of this. And sometimes it's
Is that under
the
the law of excuses? I didn't even see one. Law of excuses is right there.
but we do that. We do that. And in reality, then we have to figure out why.
Mm.
Why is that happening? Because there's a reason why you're not taking that leap. What is it? What happened to you that you feel this way? Because
You know,
it's
so it's interesting. I was thinking about this with the law of transmutation, right? So I actually think this is misapplied. And like this hit me, right? So I've always found this fascinating. If you think about it, right? Now you don't think in words, believe it or not. Like you think in images, vibration, energy, feel. Like if you were to let yourself just get lost for a moment and just consider everything you're thinking about, it's images. By the time you go to express it with words, you're now talking about, you've now taken something abstract in your mind and you've transmuted it into something that has a shape and form, right? It has an actual, tangible, realistic shape and form, right? Like you're expressing, so words are actually, now in the scriptures, if you go to the Aramaic text, the term word, like where it says word or son, right? Like the word of God, which people use to say, oh, it's the Bible. No, it's not. The word is the expression of the invisible in shape and form. So, in other words, it's the metaphysical expression of something abstract and secret that was only known to God or to you, in a sense, right? So, when you
Mhm.
take something that was in your mind and you express it orally, you're now taking something from the abstract and you're putting it in a shape and form so that someone else can understand it. Even if they don't, that's the beginning of manifesting something. That's why words are so important, right? Because you take something from your mind, you say, I want this, right? I am this. This is what it is. Like you're expressing yourself and explaining something that's incredible, that no one's ever heard before, that no one's ever seen before, because you're saying it for the very first time. And that's the beginning of manifestation, right? Like it's you've now taken it from the abstract, taken all that energy and brought it into words.
Mm.
It's really powerful to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I really value words and how incredible it is that we can create with our words, right? Like God spoken creation, right? Whether that's exactly accurate or not, the principle so powerful.
Yeah.
The principle of God speaking in the world, because look at how incredible the world is. The world's incredible, right? Land and sea and beasts and all types of incredible things, right? Like it's amazing. This world is absolutely amazing if you just stop and think about like you as a person. And I'm telling you, there's nothing more incredible in this whole world than a human being.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm biased. But if you look at the way your body acts and operates and works and functions and all the things you don't have any control of, it's incredible. It's incredible that you literally breathe in and your body transmutes oxygen into usable substance in your body and then, transmutes out, spits back out carbon dioxide. Like, here's waste, I don't need it, right? Does it all day long. It's amazing. It is
Mm.
absolutely amazing. You know, if we just spent more time being, you know, grateful for how amazing we are, I feel like our bodies will reflect that. Our
Mhm.
understanding will reflect that.
We
Our
will
work.
vibrate. The vibration will change. The frequency will change. Everything. Energy is everything. And I agree with you. Once you believe it and feel it, everything changes.
Yeah. So I'm a fervent believer in getting worked up emotionally. I use my emotions as a tool to create. You know, and I haven't always used it in the best way because I've created a lot of hard times too, right? But in general, I look at it like, have you ever met anybody who complained about being in love? I know it's a corny example and I use it all the time, but nobody ever complains about being in love. No one's ever like, oh, I'm in love. It's amazing. I'm so happy. Like no one ever complains about being in love, right? Being in love is an incredible feeling and it carries with you every place you go. It gives you security and confidence. It inspires you to do better, to work out, to to create things, right? I mean, it's the incredible idea of being in love all the time. It makes you work and be the best version of yourself, right? But when
Mhm.
people are sad and they're miserable and they're mad, they spend all their time talking about it because they have to create more of it because the natural state of a human being is not to be sad. What we are naturally is creators. What we are naturally is helpful and kind and beautiful. And it bums me out when I talk to people who are like, oh, humanity, this. It's like, you know, check off, right? Like, to be honest, like you don't know enough humans to really say that. Most people at the core of who they are, they're kind. They want to help people. Most people want to help people.
Mhm.
Most people, their natural state is to be loving. Their natural state is to be generous. Their natural state is is beautiful. That's what humanity really is. I
Yeah.
mean, what humanity really is, and part of the problem is we've forgotten that.
Yes.
We've forgotten how beautiful it is to be beautiful, and beautiful not in the way of like like to just take all this time to cut yourself and put makeup on, but be beautiful to other people. I mean,
It's always beautiful.
you know, I I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how many people I meet. I meet new people every single day. And I expect the best. I really do. And you know what? I usually get it. I usually People are usually kind. People are
Mhm.
usually nice. They usually, they want to help. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. It's just natural. And I know a lot of people be like, humanity's nature is evil to the core. We want to kill each other. No, it's not true. That's just propaganda they've been feeding you. You know, Now, do I think you should just let your kids be babysat by any random person? No, because people have been programmed and deprogrammed and messed with mentally. They've been programmed to be something they're not. But
Mhm.
I think if what I believe is true is where we're at now is we're going to a stage where if you're not constantly tweaking that part of people that is defensive, if you're not, and I don't mean you personally, I mean like the system. The system isn't constantly bringing out the worst in people.
I think it's not bringing out. I think it's bringing to light. It's happening for us, not to us. I just think that this is an opportunity that to say, oh, okay, if it's affecting me, it's because of this, or give it time. You know, sometimes we don't even realize what's there, and then you have to integrate it, forgive it, heal it, so on and so on. You know, that's what
So
I believe.
let's close on that. Talk about that a little bit. So I really think this is the most important thing. So please pay attention to this and share this. Like this is really important. We're in a stage where the entire world is changing
Yes.
and the entire universe is changing. But you, you as an individual are a universe unto yourself. Everything that exists in the universe exists in you. You are
Mhm.
the microcosm of all that is good and evil in the world. It's right in
Mhm.
you, right? So, with that being said, you've just overcome an incredibly traumatic experience, a series
Mhm.
of thousands of lives that you've lived over and over again, in which case, each time you've been suppressed, oppressed, depressed, and killed. Erase your memory so you couldn't learn anything from it and then brought back.
Mhm.
Now you're here again in this moment, and this is the first time after this has happened to you thousands of times, or at least hundreds of times, where you can press forward and know that you will live as long as you want, as long as you
Mhm.
desire. You will thrive in all ways, in all that's being made possible too. You can access memories, experiences, traumas, and victories, and you can use them to create the world that we're living in now. And part of that is healing. So, Laura, talk about that just for a second. I just want people to understand the power they have in their hands to do that.
Well, I think that like this is what I do. When something comes up, there's a reason. It's like every time I would see something attacking me. Okay, I think, well, the only way they can attack me is because there's something there to attack. So therefore, I need to identify this and figure it out. Now, sometimes it could be something from past life. It could be, something when we were children. I've had clients that it's happened in the womb, that they're carrying stuff for their parents. It's something like that. And like I said before, one thing I do like the way Ground Command does say it doesn't matter, do whatever works for you. And I thought, great, that's confirmation. I'm like, yes, because that's what I believe, because I've seen so many people, when you're walking into this journey of trying to find yourself or discover yourself or remember yourself or whatever it is, you're trying to remember your purpose. you kind of, you're a bit lost, and you think, well, there's more questions than answers. And I think that's the exciting part because, we tend to think that, well, it is, because we tend to think, we go through life thinking that we know it all. Oh, I know that. Or do you really? Because now the exciting part is that we actually get the opportunity to rediscover what it is to be human. And I think that that's something that none of us have been able to do fully. What does it mean to be human? And we experience all these things. And, one of the things that I have never liked was emotions. I don't like this. This is different. And so, therefore, you have to go through it. And sometimes for me, it was just like, you are the only one that has the answers. It doesn't matter if it's in regards to healing, where you want to go, your dreams, your desires, your life. It's your reality. Create it. And you know what? If it's something you can't do because it's going to do harm, your creator is going to stop it. However, I believe now we have this this current flow coming from direct current from our creator, that now it's just flowing within us. And if there's not a flow, your body, your emotions, something's going to tell you. You're going to know. You just have to ask. It's sometimes just walking away from a situation, getting on that plane and saying, all right, you're guiding me. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but okay, let's do this. You have to, this is where I'm saying it's an individual journey. Research, be careful what you're listening to. If it doesn't feel good, most likely it's no good for you. But then someone else can listen to it and they feel amazing because it works for them. We've got to stop comparing ourselves to everyone else. This is an individual journey. However, we are a collective. So if we're all doing our part, we'll get there. We can fast track it, or we can go down another journey. Which journey do you want to go down? But that requires you to take responsibility, accountability, and also say, you know what, I'm ready. And, when that happens, sometimes, a ball will be thrown at you that it's quite scary, but you'll probably fall down, you'll get back up, and you'll be like, I can do this. And guide me, show me, help me. There are so many resources in the multiverse that we can now pull in to assist us. We just have to ask, or else it's not going to come. And we've got to take accountability. This is our system. So do what you have to do to get to where you have to be. You have to put it in. And if you're constantly just sitting there watching TV and eating, then that's what's going to happen. But if you really want to change, then do little things first. Do step by step. But when it comes to healing, it's such trust yourself. You'll just know. That's the magical thing. There's more to it, but I don't know how to explain it, babe.
Well, all right. I think we're going to wrap it up here. I will say this. We are at this magical transitional moment in history. And to be quite honest, we have those that we have considered to be enemies. And you know what? It's because they've done things to hurt us, right? Rightfully so. And for all of them, it's time to transition into a new age, right? And for all of us, don't think you're any better if you don't do anything to help. Find a way to make the world, your world, a better place. Start with you. Start with you personally. And I'm going to say this, and I don't really care what anybody thinks about this. This is true. This is absolute fact. When it comes to loving yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean that you look at yourself and say, no matter how good or evil I am, I love it. It's awesome. No. Loving yourself means, hey, I need to get healthier. So I'm going to do things that make me healthier. Loving yourself means I'm a little rude. I'm kind of obnoxious. People don't always hear me, and what I have to say is really valuable. So I'm going to work on my delivery. Loving yourself, really being honest to the gifts you've been given. Loving yourself means taking a look at who you are and asking yourself, is this really what I'm expressing? The full version of the best version of what I am, can be, and was born to be. And then pursuing that with absolute reckless abandon. And don't worry about what anybody thinks about it. Who cares, right? Like, I love this. I watch, you know, one of my friends who's a singer, and before she'd go to sing, she'd be doing all this stuff, and it would make her look crazy. She'd be like, blah, blah, and she'd do all this weird mouth stuff and exercise. And like, crazy stuff. Like, you look silly. You look ridiculous. You know, she'd say, who cares? Because when I sing, it brings the house down. Because she wanted to be the best singer she could be, so she didn't care how she looked. So there's something to be said about stop worrying about what you look like and start considering what you be like. Who is it that you are? And pursue that. And no matter how ugly it looks, you go through it. You go through it. Let everybody mock and joke and laugh and cry and hate you and love you and you know what? And all of it, treat all of it the same way. Whether you love me or hate me, I'm gonna be this version of myself, and I'm gonna pursue that regardless of what you think. I don't care how ugly it looks. This is what I got to do to get to where I am of who I really am, who I was born to be. Embrace it. Embrace all those ugly parts of what it takes to be the best version of yourself, but be that because you have an obligation to be that because you were given life every single day that you had this body. Your lungs have been breathing for you with no help from you. Your heart keeps beating, your eyes keep seeing, your mouth tastes. Think of all the things that are happening in your body you don't know anything about, but they just keep working. And whenever you have a moment where you doubt, God, you forsaken me. No, he didn't. The fact that you're still breathing means he still believes in you. He made an investment in you, an investment greater than anything else you ever got from anyone else. He gave you life, and he's maintained your life up until this moment. So the very least we could do in all this talk about being grateful, like, oh, gratuity is great. How about you be grateful for that? Be grateful for what God has given you. Be grateful for this life. Take it and make it something amazing. This is the movie Troy, right? And Brad Pitt plays Achilles. And this young man asked him some question, I forget what it was, like, why would you go to battle? You might get killed. And he like, I wouldn't go to battle. I don't want to get killed. And Achilles looks at him and goes, that's why no one will remember your name. Achilles didn't care who he was. Just he knew who he was with a legacy that would expand past just that moment in time. He knew himself before in just his life experiences. He was everything he was contributing to in the whole universe in his energetic field. Embrace that. You were born to be amazing. Stop making excuses as to why you're not and start embracing that you are. And you can do it in a humble way and be very subtle about it behind the scenes. But when the time comes for you to speak, you better speak up. Or you can be outspoken and bold. You can do that too. But the fact of the matter is, whatever role it is that you're here to play, embrace it. Be exceptional. You were born during the time of the greatest transitional time for all of the multiverse, and you have a role to play. Find out what it is. And that's all I got for today, Lauda.
Thank
You
you,
so
Mr.
much.
Rao.
Everybody, my name is Tank, aka Stephen Rao, and this is the Life Force Network. Let's go change the world.